well hello there. I didn't hear you come in. We're just farming greater rifts here and trying to get some better gear and Paragon levels. So what we are doing here is focusing on the Crusader Condemn build, and I'm going to share it with you all. This is the #1 greater rift pushing build that you can possibly play at the moment in Diablo 3 in these current seasons. So we're currently in season 14, moving on to season 15. This will still be the strongest build. If that changes, I'll definitely make a video and let you all know, but personally I've hardly played this season at all, and players are clearing 118 greater rift levels plus. So it's definitely hugely powerful. I'm finishing up this GR90 here and just showing you all an example of the gameplay. It's pushing GR's 118, which is amazing. So if your goal in Diablo 3 is to push greater rift levels really high, or as high as you can go, then the Crusader Condemn is for you. The Condemn Crusader build, class, whatever, you know what I'm saying. So we're just going to take out the rift guard in here, and then we'll go into town, and I'm going to go through all the gear and the skills required for this, and also how to optimize your Condemn build, maximize the damage, and get some decent survivability, because survivability definitely is key here. And as we all know, when we progress into really high-end greater rifts, it's pretty hard surviving. So survivability is key, and as you can see there, like, I've had an awful season. I've hardly played. I've had other focuses that I just had to pay attention to: work, general life, leisure activities. I've gone to see a lot of bands and stuff. So I just all round busy man. Now let's head to town and talk more about this Crusader. Alright, we're in town, and I'm about to explain to you how the absolute most powerful greater rift pushing build works. Is the Crusader class, and the Condemn build is definitely unique. It's different, and it'll keep you interested for quite a long period of time. It's not like anything else that you've probably played before. I love me a kombucha tea. So I'm about to explain to everybody how the #1 most powerful greater rift pushing build works and what's required. I'm a measly 796 Paragon this season, but that doesn't mean that this build cannot progress and push into those really high-end greater rifts. It can. The exact same items build strategy that I'm using here is pushing 118 greater rifts. However, the Paragon levels are through this roof. These players are like 2,500, 3,000 Paragon levels. So it's going to take a lot of time if your mission, if your goal is to be pushing that amount of greater rift level, 118 plus. It's no easy feat. It's going to take you a long time to get there, but I'm going to explain how to get there if that is what you want to achieve. So let's open up the inventory here and have a look at our gear first. We need 6 pieces of Akans out. Akans is very unique because there's actually 7 items that we can choose from. We ignore the feet, the boots. We're going to be using the helm, the chest, the pants, the shoulders here, the gloves, and the amulet. Other items that we're using, and this is non-negotiable, you must use these items: strong arm braces. We're using focus and restraint. We're using the furnace here as our two-handed weapon in our main hand slot. The Illusory Boots, one of my personal favorites. I love using this for set dungeons and pretty much any other gameplay wherever possible to slot them in, because you just move through everything unhindered. Not just enemies, but also those brick walls that block us in with elite packs and stuff. You can move through all that. Nothing can stop us. You just can't walk through normal walls, obviously. And Friday's Wrath here for the shield. I think that's all the gear. No, sorry, the belt. The belt, string of ears. Okay, so what you want to focus on is definitely strength, vitality. Then crit chance and crit damage are nice, but wherever you get the chance in any gear slot item that you can get cooldown reduction, get some cooldown reduction. As you can see here, I've got cooldown reduction wherever the hell is possible, and it definitely makes a huge difference getting that cooldown reduction, because you want to keep Akarat's champion up 100% of the time. Believe me, that split second where he might be down in a greater rift, especially a big high end greater rift, you're gonna die. You're gonna take a lot of damage in that split second or two, and you're just gonna die. So make sure that your cooldown reduction is up at about 56%. I'm at about 59 right now, because that gives me like a couple split seconds there to activate Akarat's champion when it's down. However, if you leave it right to the last split microsecond, that second could mean the death of you in like a big greater rift. So 56% minimum. If you can get a little bit more, I'd highly recommend that for sure. So once you have your strength, vitality, cooldown reduction, then you can focus on critical hit chance, critical hit damage wherever possible, and resistance to all elements is nice as well, but we can't have everything. It's just impossible. Just try and find that nice balance between surviving and dishing out damage. That's what's most important, and also make sure that you have at least 56% cooldown reduction so we can keep that Akarat's champion up the whole time, baby. With the amulet and braces, you want to try and get holy damage plus 20%. With this amulet here, I had to roll a socket so I can get a legendary gem in there. So I had to leave my critical hit chance and critical hit damage up there. Ideally, I'd like crit chance, crit damage, and also the holy damage. But in this case, I had to use my roll, my enchant to get that socket, which is the most important regardless. So make sure you have your socket up, and then you want critical hit chance, critical hit damage, strength obviously, and if possible, holy skills. 20% would be really nice there. Instead of crit chance, I'd rather that holy skills damage, but it's not possible right now because I used my roll for the socket. Meh. With Frida's Wrath here, a really perfect roll, particularly if it's Ancient or Primal Ancient, would be something with cooldown reduction and also condemned damage. Unfortunately, it's a very hard task. I've got cooldown reduction there, 7%. I can't roll anything else to get the condemned damage, unfortunately. And I like this Frida's Wrath shield that I have because it's got strength, vit, and also plus percentage of life, plus 12% life. It really helps me survive. I like this shield. I just wish that I can get condemned damage there as well. It's up to you. Start rolling away. Try and get your perfect Frida's Wrath shield. Now, in Illusory Boots, you can see that I got 12% movement speed, I got strength, vit, resistance to all elements, that's nice. 12 movement speed we can keep there because there's nothing else that we can benefit from. But keep in mind, if you have any movement speed in your items, then you can only have 13% in your Paragon levels, and that way you're maxed out. You can't have more than 25% from your items and your Paragon levels. You can, but it's capped at 25%, so you're not going to actually benefit over 25%. Looking at the legendary gems, as always, super important. We're using Bane of the Trapped, we're using Esoteric Alteration, and lastly, we're using Bane of the Stricken. And a quick mention with the Furnace here, Ancient or Primal Ancient is obviously awesome. Plus percent damage, strength, vitality would be nice, but definitely want to have 10% cooldown reduction there. No matter what, have your 10% cooldown reduction. This makes a huge difference, and you can probably sacrifice some cooldown reduction in other items. For instance, I don't have it in my amulet piece, and I get away with it because I got 10% there, plus all that other stuff that I have in my items. Cooldown reduction in my items equals up to 59. We're good to go, no problemo. Before we talk about the skills, let's have a look at the set bonuses here with the Akan set so you guys understand the mechanics and how this build works. For 2 pieces, reduce the cost of all abilities by 50% while Akarat's champion is active. So a bit of cooldown reduction there for all of our abilities while Akarat's is active. For 4 pieces, reduce the cooldown of Akarat's champion by 50%. Huge cooldown there. For 6 pieces, while Akarat's champion is active, you deal 1500% increased damage and take 50% less damage, which is why having Akarat's champion up 100% of the time is so damn important. You're not just dealing huge damage, you're taking 50% less damage as well. So ultra important ability there, and this is how the build comes together. Let's look at the skills. So the skills, we're using Slash with Guard, Provoke with Cleanse, Laws of Valor with Unstoppable Force, Iron Skin with Steel Skin, Condemn with Vacuum, Akrat's Champion Prophet. The passives, Heavenly Strength, Long Arm of the Law, Holy Cause, and Indestructible. So basically what you want to do, as soon as you go into your Greater Rift or your Nephilim Rift, or if you're farming bounties or whatever the hell you're doing, you want to activate Akrat's Champion straight away and make sure that it remains active. As soon as that cooldown is about to tick over, it should be available again if you've got 56% cooldown reduction minimum. Activate it again and keep spamming that Condemn when you come across enemies. When you're starting to struggle, you can definitely activate Iron Skin and that'll increase your damage reduction. So your skin turns to iron, protecting you from most damage for 7 seconds. Most damage isn't all damage, trust me. I've activated this and taken a lot of damage anyway, but it helps us survive for sure. Laws of Valor with Unstoppable Force helps us use less Wrath. So I usually activate these two bad boys at the same time. If you're not taking too much damage, then you can activate Laws of Valor just to save yourself some Wrath when you're in a pack or killing elites or whatever the hell you're doing as you're spamming Condemn. Make sure that that's up whenever it's possible, whenever you're using your Condemns. Provoke with Cleanse. Cleanse is actually optional. I use this for a bit of extra healing. Most people use Too Scared to Run, so taunted enemies will move and attack slower for a short time. That sort of helps activate Bane of the Trapped and also adds to your survivability. However, I personally like using Cleanse. It adds to the survivability and I'm more comfortable using Cleanse, but you can alternate. Try Too Scared for Run, try Cleanse. Every player is a little bit different. Usually, I've been using Too Scared to Run for quite a while and I just found that Cleanse, I'm able to survive a little bit better in those higher end Greater Rifts. And Slash here lastly, use this when you're around big packs, and what it does is it adds armor, so it adds to our survivability that much more, and if it's a big pack then you'll have full stacks immediately helping you survive. So pretty handy there, and I definitely wouldn't swap that out for anything. But you guys feel free to experiment and see maybe some different runes that might suit you a little bit better. You know, you're welcome to experiment. If you find something interesting and you think I might want to know about it, let me know in the comments below. Or if you find something you feel that it works better for you, let me know in the comments. I definitely want to know about it, and I'll be impressed if you find something that makes this build work even better. Super impressed. So what else can we talk about here? Let's talk about Kenai's Cube, which is super important, obviously. For the weapon slot, Blade of Prophecy. Absolutely necessary. 2 condemned enemies also trigger Condemn's explosion, and the damage of Condemn is increased by 800%. So when we condemn 2 enemies, it triggers the explosion automatically, and the damage is increased by a whopping 800%. So you definitely want that. You've also got the option to equip this blade and have Blade of the Furnace in the weapon slot, but ideally you want to get that maximum 800% in Kenai's Cube, and definitely have like an Ancient or a Primal Ancient Furnace to maximize damage for sure. With armor, we're using Leoric's Crown in Jewelry, Convention of Elements. For Paragon levels, let's have a look. Remember I mentioned if you have any movement speed in your items, then you have to only have a maximum of 25% combined with Kenai's Cube. So in our boots there, we had 12%, so I've put in 13% movement speed increase here in the core, and that gives us our 25% cap. That's the most we can get from items and Paragon points combined. Everything else dump into strength. In offense, you want cooldown reduction first, definitely, no matter what. This is super important, and you definitely want to max it out as soon as possible. And then we want to go critical hit chance, critical hit damage, or just put them sort of gradually into both those skills. Put your points into both, doesn't really matter. And last of all, go into attack speed. Defense, we're going resist all, armor, life, and then life regen in that order. Utility, resource cost reduction, area damage, life per hit, then gold find in that order. Or you can also do life per hit second and then area damage after that, gold find. If you find yourself you're not surviving very well, then you can go life per hit second, but definitely go resource cost reduction first, and then either of these two, area damage or life per hit, and then obviously gold find isn't that important at all, use that last. That is it, my creepy ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for the support. We're coming close to 10,000 subscribers. I cannot wait to hit that benchmark. I owe it all to you. Without you, there would be no creepy uncle. Without you, there'd be no creepiness. Without you, this would all be for nothing. So thank you all. I love you all. If you're new to my channel, just remember you can subscribe and that way you won't miss a thing. But it's not required here. But what is appreciated more than anything is if you just come back and visit your creepy damn uncle.